Namaste. Aloha. My name is Janapati Das, and we are back in our Krishna Katha story time. We are going to continue with our Krishna stories. Feel free to please make a comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't liked my channel already. And if you are interested, I have that slew of different videos of the past Krishna stories that we've read and discussed. And as always, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual teacher, Jagat Guru, Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, and to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta, and to you. So please, thank you for joining, and jump in with my kirtan right now. Namo Vishnu. I'm going to change the key. Sorry. Always notice these things. Keep them real. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siddhaswarupananda Paramamsa Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siddhaswarupananda Paramamsa Iti Namine Bhakti Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaurabhakta Haribo Nitai Gaura Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribo Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are going to actually, as I know, sometimes my phone doesn't have enough memory or on it, and the video gets cut off. So I apologize again, once again. I know our story got cut off at the end there. So I'm going to actually go back and read the last part of the story. I think it's, yeah, four pages before the end of the story. So we're receiving the prayer by, first of all, there was a prayer by the Shivajvara, the weapon personification of Lord Shiva, praying to Lord Krishna. And then Lord Shiva himself came and started praying to Krishna. So these prayers are always very wonderful, beautiful, and we're just going to get right into where we left off. Because it is a cloudy day to the common man's eyes, the sun appears to be covered, but the fact is that because the sunshine creates the cloud, even though the whole sky is cloudy, the sun can never actually be covered. Similarly, the less intelligent class of men claims that there is no God, but when the manifestation of different living entities and their activities as visible, enlightened persons see you present in every atom and through via medium of your external and marginal energies. Your unlimited potential activities are experienced by the most enlightened devotees, but those who are bewildered by the spell of your external energy identify themselves with this material world and become attached to society, friendship, and love. So, very important point that the living entity who is the atheist, who is a denier of the existence of God, has no real interest in developing their love. They think they're their body. They're out there to, like most people, to try to find happiness in the world, and Krishna gives them what they want. So they don't understand because they don't see. And as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the source of all remembrance and forgetfulness. So if we want to forget Krishna, which is what most of us are in the material world for, we want to forget Krishna, we want to be our own God, or attempt to be our own God. But those devotees who have come to the point of understanding the suffering in the material world and inquired have actually been able to lay down the understanding, to be able to receive the understanding from via the spiritual master, the pure devotee, about the reality of their existence. And therefore they are on this path, and they can actually see Krishna in the places that most atheistic people in this world do not see them, because of they are grossly conditioned by the material energy. They are under complete control, but one of the greatest things that Maya Devi does is make it believe it's you. It's you. It's your thoughts. It's your feelings, your emotions. It's about you. It's you. You're the one who's doing this. And even this whole idea of God is not true because it's about you, blah, blah, blah. Thus they embrace the threefold miseries of material existence and are subjected to the dualities of pain and pleasure. They are sometimes drowned in the ocean of attachment and sometimes taken out of it. My dear Lord, only by your mercy and grace can the living entity get the human form of life. So the human form of life is a rare and extremely important form of life to be in, because from here we can inquire about our existence and get out of the material world. But unfortunately, most people in the human form of life squander in the same attempt to try to find happiness. It's just a futile attempt, and therefore they are cast into other species of life once again, which is a chance to get out of the miserable condition of material existence. However, a person who possesses a human body but who cannot bring the senses under control is carried away by the waves of sensual enjoyment. So there is no power that the individual has except through the mercy of taking surrender and shelter of the pure devotee and Krishna. And dear Lord, please protect me from this material world. Protect me from Maya Devi, because it is too powerful. Even the strongest swimmer, you could be an Olympic swimmer, and you're plopped into the middle of the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, where there is no land anywhere around. You may be able to swim for a while, but you eventually the ocean overtakes you, even the strongest swimmer. Similarly, this is what they've stated here as waves of sensual enjoyment. There is no ability to be able to just artificially control the material enjoyment. You need to take shelter of Krishna in order to be able to do it. As such, he cannot take shelter of your lotus feet and thus engage in your devotional service. The life of such a person is very unfortunate. Anyone living such a life of darkness is certainly cheating himself and thus cheating others also. So we live in a world of cheated and cheaters who are cheating and being cheated. So people take shelter of so many different things, and other people actually they do. Even if they're not admitting it, they're really taking shelter. We take shelter from so many people in this material world who are also lost. They're also in the hospital of this illusory world, completely sick, and therefore they're just like the blind man leading the blind. They're not going anywhere. If we are fortunate enough to take shelter of a devotee who has the vision, because he has also taken shelter of a pure devotee who has seen, then one is extremely fortunate if they follow that devotee. Therefore, human society without Krishna consciousness is a society of cheaters and the cheated. My Lord, you are actually the dearmost supersoul of all living entities and the supreme controller of everything. The human being who is always illusioned is afraid of ultimate death. A man who is simply attached to sensual enjoyment voluntarily accepts the miserable material existence and thus wanders after the will-o'-the-wisp of sense pleasure. So that's kind of like this thing that, you see it and you follow it along and it's actually not even really there. And you're just, or like a tumbleweed that's running away and you're chasing after it. Similarly, people are chasing after this concept, this idea, sensual enjoyment will, bring me true satisfaction and happiness. And how many people have followed that in their history and have found that it's just not true. It's not true at all. Therefore, human society, so he is certainly the most foolish man, for he drinks poison and puts aside the nectar. My dear Lord, all the demigods, including myself and Lord Brahma, as well as great saintly persons and sages who have cleansed their heart of this material attachment, have, by your grace, wholeheartedly taken shelter of your lotus feet. We have all taken shelter of you because we have accepted you as the Supreme Lord and the dearmost life and soul of all of us. You are the original cause of this cosmic manifestation. You are its supreme maintainer, and you are the cause of its dissolution also. You are equal to everyone, the most peaceful, supreme friend of every living entity. You are the supreme worshipable object for every one of us. My dear Lord, let us always be engaged in your transcendental loving service, so that we may get free from this material entanglement. Lastly, my Lord, I may inform you that this Banasura is very dear to me. He has rendered very valuable service unto me. Therefore, I want to see him always happy. Being pleased with him, I have given him the assurance of safety. I pray to you, my Lord, that as you were pleased upon his forefathers, King Prahlad and Bali Maharaj, you will also be pleased with him. This is a pure devotee. This is a devotee's attitude. Lord Shiva is a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and he cares about the well-being of others, even when they're acting, especially when they're acting foolishly. So you can see that Lord Shiva in the past got really upset with Banasura, not because he hated him, but because he loved him. He cared about him, and he saw how foolish and reckless he was being. After hearing Lord Shiva's prayer, Lord Krishna addressed him also as Lord and said, My dear Lord Shiva, I accept your statement, and your desire for Banasura is also accepted by me. I know that this Banasura is the son of Bali Maharaj, and as such I cannot kill him because that is my promise. I gave a benediction to King Prahlad that all the demons who would appear in his family would never be killed by me. Therefore, without killing this Banasura, I have simply cut off his arms to deprive him of his false prestige. Sometimes people have incredible, wealth and fortune and power, and they have it cut down just because they get real puffed up. The large number of soldiers which he was maintaining became a burden on this earth, and I have killed them, and all in order to minimize the burden. That's one of the reasons why Krishna was on the planet. Now he has 4 remaining arms, and he will remain immortal without being affected by the material pains and pleasures. I know that he is one of the chief devotees of your lordship, so you can now rest assured that henceforth he need have no fear from anything. When Banasura was benedicted by Lord Krishna in this way, he came before the Lord and bowed down before him, touching his head to the earth. He immediately arranged to bring Aniruddha along with his daughter Usha, seated on a nice chariot, and presented them before Lord Krishna. After this, Lord Krishna took charge of Aniruddha and Usha, who had become very opulent materially because of the blessings of Lord Shiva. Thus, keeping forward a division of 1 Akshahini of soldiers, Krishna began to proceed towards Dwarka. In the meantime, all the people at Dwarka, having received the news that Lord Krishna was returning with Aniruddha and Usha in great opulence, decorated every corner of the city with flags, festoons, and garlands. All the big roads and crossings were carefully cleansed and sprinkled with sandalwood pulp mixed with water. Everywhere there was a flavor of sandalwood. All the citizens, accompanied by their friends and relatives, welcomed Lord Krishna with great pomp and jubilation. At that time, there was a tumultuous vibration of conch shells and drums and bugles to receive the Lord. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, entered his capital, Dwarka. Shukadev Goswami assured King Parikshit that the narration of the fight between Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna is not at all inauspicious like ordinary fights. On the contrary, if one remembers the narration of this fight between Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva in the morning and takes pleasure in the victory of Lord Krishna, he will never experience defeat anywhere in his struggle of life. This episode of Banasura's fighting with Krishna and later on being saved by the grace of Lord Shiva is confirmation of the statement in the Bhagavad Gita that the worshippers of the demigods cannot achieve any benediction without its being sanctioned by the Supreme Lord Krishna. Here excuse me. Here in this narration, we find that although Banasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, when he faced death by Krishna, Lord Shiva was not able to save him. But Lord Shiva appealed to Krishna to save his devotee, and it was thus sanctioned by the Lord. This is the position of Lord Krishna. The exact words used in this connection in the Bhagavad Gita are Mayaiva Vihintan Hitan. This means that without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, no demigod can award any benediction to the worshipper. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 2nd volume, 8th chapter of Krishna. Lord Krishna fights with Banasura. So we have a little bit of time. We're going to continue on chapter 9. Very exciting story. The story of King Nrga. Once the family members of Lord Krishna, such as Shamba, Pradyumna, Charubanu, and Gada, all princes of the Yadu dynasty, went for a long picnic in the forest near Dwarka. In the course of their exertion, all of them became thirsty, and so they began to try to find out where the water was available in the forest. When they approached a well, they found that there was no water in it, but on the contrary, within the well was a wonderful living entity. It was a large lizard, and all of them became astonished to see such a wonderful animal. They could understand that the animal was trapped and could not escape by its own effort, so out of compassion they tried to take the large lizard out of the well. Unfortunately, they could not get the lizard out, even though they tried to do so in many ways. When the princes returned home, their story was narrated before Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the friend of all living entities. Therefore, after hearing the appeal from his sons, he personally went to the well and easily got the great lizard out simply by extending his left hand. Immediately upon being touched by the hand of Lord Krishna, that great lizard gave up its former shape and appeared as a beautiful demigod, an inhabitant of the heavenly planets. His bodily complexion glittered like molten gold. He was decorated with fine garments, and he wore costly ornaments around his neck. How the demigod had been obliged to accept the body of a lizard was not secret to Lord Krishna, but still, for others' information, the Lord inquired, "My dear fortunate demigod, now I see that your body is so beautiful and lustrous. Who are you? We can guess that you are one of the best demigods in the heavenly planets. All good fortune to you. I think that you are not meant to be in this situation. It must have been It must be due to the results of your past activities that you have been put into the species of lizard life. Still, I want to hear from you how you were put in this position. If you think that you can disclose this secret, then please tell us your identity. Actually, this large lizard was King Nrga, and when he was questioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immediately bowed down before the Lord, touching to the ground the helmet on his head, which was as dazzling as the sunshine. In this way, he first of all offered his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. He then said, "My dear Lord, I am the son of King Ishvaku, and I am King Nrga. If you have ever taken account of all charitably disposed men, I am sure you must have heard my name. My Lord, you are the witness. You are aware of every bit of work done by the living entities, past, present, and future. Nothing can be hidden from your eternal cognizance. Still, you have ordered me to explain my history, and I shall therefore narrate the full story." King Nrga proceeded to narrate the history of his degradation caused by his karma kanda activities. He was very charitably disposed and had given away so many cows that he said that the number was equal to the amount of dust on the earth, the stars in the sky, and the rainfall. According to the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, a man who is charitably disposed is commanded to give cows to the Brahmanas. From King Nrga's statement, it appears that he followed this principle earnestly. However, as a result of a slight discrepancy in his action, he was forced to take birth as a lizard. Therefore, it is recommended by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita that one who is charitably disposed and desires to derive the benefit of his charity should offer his gifts to please Krishna. To give in charity means to perform pious activities. As a result of pious activities, one may be elevated to the higher planetary systems, but promotion to the heavenly planets is no guarantee that one will never fall down. Rather, from the example of King Nrga, it is definitely proved that fruitive activities, even if they are very pious, cannot give us eternal blissful life. Okay, very important point. Even if we're doing some kind of fruitive activity in a very pious way, and this could be anything from doing charity work for, giving food to the homeless, or trying to work in a soup kitchen, or there's so many kind of charities. You can give food to the homeless, but it's best first to offer it to Krishna, so then that they're benefited spiritually. Whereas opposed to just giving people like meat or eggs or anything that will actually bind them because of the karma. The result of work, either pious or impious, is sure to bind a man unless it is discharged as yajna, sacrifice, right, on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. King Nrga continued to say that the cows given in charity were not ordinary cows. Each one was very young and had given birth to only one calf. They were full of milk, very peaceful and healthy. All the cows were purchased with money that had been earned illegally. Furthermore, their horns were gold-plated, their hooves were bedecked with silver plates, and they were covered with silken wrappers which were embroidered with pearls and necklaces. He stated that these valuably decorated cows were not given to any worthless person, but were distributed to the first-class Brahmanas, whom he had also decorated with nice garments and gold ornaments. The Brahmanas were well qualified, none of them were rich, and their family members were always in want for the necessities of life. A real Brahmana never hoards money for a luxurious life like the Kshatriyas or the Vaishyas, but always keeps himself in a poverty-stricken condition, knowing that money diverts the mind to materialistic ways of life. In the days of Kali Yuga and this day and age, unfortunately, this has changed quite considerably. To live in this way is the vow of a qualified Brahmana, and all of these Brahmanas were well situated in that exalted vow. They were well learned in Vedic knowledge, they executed the required austerities and penances in their lives, and were liberal, meeting the standards of qualified Brahmanas. They were equally friendly to everyone. Above all, they were young and quite fit to act as qualified Brahmanas. They were equally friendly to everyone. Above all, they were young and quite fit to act as qualified Brahmanas. So I just read that. Besides the cows, they were also given land, gold, houses, horses, and elephants. Those who were not married were given wives, maid servants, grains, silver, utensils, garments, jewels, household furniture, chariots, etc. This charity was nicely performed as a sacrifice according to Vedic rituals. The king also stated that not only had he bestowed gifts on the Brahmanas, but he had performed other pious activities such as digging a well, planting trees on the roadside, and installing ponds on the highways. The king continued, in spite of all this, unfortunately, one of the Brahmana's cows chanced to enter amongst my other cows. Not knowing this, I again gave it in charity to another Brahmana. As the cow was being taken away by the Brahmana, its former master claimed it as his own, stating, "This cow was formerly given to me, so how is it that you are taking it away?" Thus there was arguing and fighting between the two Brahmanas, and they came before me and charged that I had taken back a cow that I had previously given in charity. To give something to someone and then to take it away is considered a great sin, especially in dealing with a Brahmana. When both the Brahmanas charged the king with the same complaint, he was simply puzzled as to how it had happened. Thereafter, with great humility, the king offered each of them 100,000 cows in exchange for the one cow that was causing the fight between them. He prayed to them that he was their servant and that there had been some mistake. Thus, in order to rectify it, he prayed that they would be very kind upon him and accept his offer in exchange for the cow. The king fervently appealed to the Brahmanas not to cause his downfall into hell because of this mistake. A Brahmana's property is called Brahmashva, and according to Manu's law, it cannot be acquired even by the government. Both Brahmanas insisted that the cow was theirs and could not be taken back under any condition. Neither of them agreed to exchange it for 100,000 cows. Thus, disagreeing with the king's proposal, both Brahmanas left the place in anger, thinking that their lawful position had been usurped. After this incident, when the time came for the king to give up his body, he was taken before Yamaraj, the superintendent of death. Yamaraj asked him whether he wanted to enjoy the results of his pious activities or first suffer the results of his impious activities. Yamaraj also hinted that since the king had executed so many pious activities and charities, the limit of Nrga's enjoyments would be unknown to him. There was practically no end to the king's material happiness, but in spite of this hint, he was bewildered. He decided first to suffer the results of his impious activities, and then accept the results of his pious activities. Therefore, Yamaraj immediately turned him into a lizard. King Nrga had remained in a well as a big lizard for a very long time. He told Lord Krishna, in spite of being put into that degraded condition of life, I simply thought of you, my dear Lord, smart, and my memory was never vanquished. It appears from these statements of King Nrga that persons who follow the principles of fruitive activities and derive some material benefits are not very intelligent. Being given the choice by the superintendent of death, Yamaraj, King Nrga could have first accepted the results of his pious activities. Instead, he thought it would be better to first receive the effects of his impious activities and then enjoy the effects of his pious activities without disturbance. On the whole, he had not developed Krishna consciousness. The Krishna conscious person develops love of God, Krishna, not love for pious or impious activities. Therefore, he is not subjected to the results of such action. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, a devotee by the grace of the Lord does not become subjected to the resultant reactions of fruitive activities. Somehow or other, as a result of his pious activities, King Nrga had aspired to see the Lord. He continued to say, "My dear Lord, I had a great desire that someday I might be able to see you personally. I think that my tendency to perform ritualistic and charitable activities, combined with this great desire to see you personally, has enabled me to retain the memory of who I was in my former life, even though I became a lizard." Such a person who remembers his past life is called Jati Shmara. My dear Lord, you are the supersoul seated in everyone's heart. There are many great mystic yogis who have eyes to see you through the Vedas and Upanishads. In order to achieve the elevated position of being equal in quality with you, they always meditate on you within their hearts. Although such saintly persons may see you constantly within their hearts, they still cannot see you eye to eye. Therefore, I am very much surprised that I am able to see you personally. I know that I was engaged in so many activities, especially as a king. Although I was in the midst of luxury and opulence and was subjected to so much of the happiness and misery of material existence, I am so fortunate to be seeing you personally. As far as I know, when one becomes liberated from material existence, he can see you in this way. When King Nrga elected to receive the results of his impious activities, he was given the body of a lizard because of the mistake in his pious activities. Thus, he could not be directly converted to the higher status of life like a great demigod. However, along with his pious activities, he thought of Krishna, so he was quickly released from the body of a lizard and given the body of a demigod. By worshiping the Supreme Lord, those who desire material opulences are given the bodies of powerful demigods. Sometimes these demigods can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead eye to eye, but they are still not yet eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the Vaikuntha planets. However, if the demigod continues to become devotees of the Lord, the next chance they get, they will enter into the Vaikuntha planets. Having attained the body of a demigod, King Nrga, continuing to remember everything, said, "My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Lord and are worshipped by all the demigods. You are not one of the living entities, but you are the Supreme Person, Purushottam. You are the source of all happiness to all living entities. Therefore, you are known as Govinda. You are the Lord of those living entities who have accepted a material body and those who have not yet accepted a material body. Among the living entities who have not accepted a material body are those who are hovering in the material world as evil spirits or living in the ghostly atmosphere. However, those who live in the spiritual kingdom, the Vaikuntha Lokas, have bodies that are not made of material elements. You are, my Lord, infallible. You are the supreme, the purest of all living entities. You are living in everyone's heart. You are the shelter of all living entities, Narayan. Being seated in the heart of all living entities, you are the supreme director of everyone's sensual activities. Therefore, you are called Hrishikesh. My dear Supreme Lord Krishna, because you have given me this body of a demigod, I will have to go to some heavenly planet, so I am taking this opportunity to beg for your mercy that I may have the benediction of never forgetting your lotus feet, no matter to which form of life or planet I may be transferred. So that's the ultimate goal a devotee should be praying for. You are all pervading, present everywhere as cause and effect. You are the cause of all causes, and your potency and power are unlimited. You are the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, and the supreme Brahman. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. My dear Lord, your body is full of transcendental bliss and knowledge, and you are eternal. You are the master of all mystic powers, therefore you are known as Yogeshvara. Kindly accept me as an insignificant dust at your lotus feet. Before entering the heavenly planets, King Nrga circumambulated the Lord. He touched his helmet to the lotus feet of the Lord and bowed before him. Seeing the airplane from the heavenly planets present before him, he was given permission by the Lord to board it. After the departure of King Nrga, Lord Krishna expressed his appreciation for the king's devotion to the Brahmanas, as well as his charitable disposition and his performance of Vedic rituals. Therefore, it is recommended that if one cannot directly become a devotee of the Lord, one should follow the Vedic principles of life. This will enable him one day to see the Lord by being promoted either directly to the spiritual kingdom or indirectly to the heavenly kingdom, where he has hope of being transferred to the spiritual planets. At this time, Lord Krishna was present among his relatives who were members of the Kshatriya class. To teach them through the exemplary character of King Nrga, he said, even though a Kshatriya king may be as powerful as fire, it is not possible for him to usurp the property of a Brahmana and utilize it for his own purpose. If this is so, how can ordinary kings who falsely think of themselves the most powerful beings within the material world usurp a Brahman's property? I do not think that taking poison is as dangerous as taking a Brahmana's property. For ordinary poison there is treatment. One can be relieved from its effects, but if one drinks the poison of taking a Brahmana's property, there is no remedy for the mistake. The perfect example was King Nrga. He was very powerful and very pious, but due to the small mistake, unknowingly usurping a Brahmana's cow, he was condemned to the abominable life of a lizard. Ordinary poison affects only those who drink it. An ordinary fire can be extinguished simply by pouring water on it, but the Arani fire, ignited by the spiritual potency of a Brahmana, can burn to ashes the whole family of a person who provokes such a Brahmana. Formerly, the Brahmanas used to ignite the fire of sacrifice not with matches or any other external fire, but with their powerful mantras called Arani. If someone even touches a Brahmana's property, he is ruined for 3 generations. However, if a Brahmana's property is forcibly taken away, the taker's family for 10 generations before him and for 10 generations after him will be subject to ruination. On the other hand, if someone becomes a Vaishnava or a devotee of the Lord, 10 generations of his family before his birth and 10 generations after will become liberated. Lord Krishna continued, if some foolish king who is puffed up by his wealth, prestige, and power wants to usurp a Brahmana's property, it should be understood that such a king is clearing his path to hell. He does not know how much he has to suffer for such an unwise action. If someone takes away the property of a very liberal Brahmana who is encumbered by a large dependent family, then such an usurper is put into the hell known as Kumbhi Paka. Not only is he put into this hell, but his family members also have to accept such a miserable condition of life. A person who takes away property which has either been awarded to a Brahmana or given away by him is condemned to live for at least 60,000 years, as miserably as an insect in stool. Therefore, I instruct you, all my boys and relatives present here, do not even by mistake take the possession of a Brahmana and thereby pollute your whole family. If someone even wishes to possess such property, let alone attempts to take it away by force, the duration of his life will be reduced. He will be defeated by his enemies, and after being bereft of his royal position, when he gives up his body, he will become a serpent. A serpent gives trouble to all other living entities. My dear boys and relatives, I therefore advise you that even if a Brahmana becomes angry with you and calls you by ill names or cuts you, still you should not retaliate. On the contrary, you should smile, tolerate him, and offer your respects to the Brahmana. Knowing very well that even I myself offer my obeisances to the Brahmanas with great respect 3 times daily. You should therefore follow my instruction and example. I shall not forgive anyone who does not follow them, and I shall punish him. You should learn from the example of King Nrga that even if someone unknowingly usurps the property of a Brahmana, he is put into a miserable condition of life. Thus, Lord Krishna, who is always engaged in purifying the conditioned living entities, gave instruction not only to his family members and the inhabitants of Dwarka, but to all the members of human society. After this, the Lord entered his palace. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 2nd volume, 9th chapter of Krishna, the story of King Nrga. And that is all for today. Thank you very much. Let's chant a little bit, and we will call it a day. Hare Krishna, we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. And remember, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. All right, Bull.